Right, so we're just partway through building the diff and transmission. Actually, we're completely finished building the diff and halfway through building the transmission. But just want to show you how Associated have you set the diff initially. Basically, if you're familiar with ball diffs at all, you've got the thrust bearing that's on one side here. It's on this side. And then the spring, which is a very stiff spring, and then a locking nut, T-nut was what they call it, but it's encased around a lock nut there. And so what we're going to do is you just tighten everything down, and when you feel it get tight, don't tighten any further, and then you loosen it by a quarter turn. So you should, if you're holding one side of the diff, one diff out drive, just give it a spin, and it should be nice and smooth with a little bit of resistance. And then after you drive the car once or twice, just check the diff setting again. Just with the wheels, you just spin the wheels before you first run, just so you get an idea of what they're meant to feel like. And then after you do your first run, obviously the diff is starting to wear in on the diff rings and everything inside there. And then so you just tighten it a little bit and check it again and just make sure it feels about the same as it did before. So it's an important setting for your steering and your traction and stuff like that, in and out of the turns. So it's just something that Associated have you do. It's very simple. So that's it. We'll carry on with the rest of the build. Alright, here we are. We've just finished bag C and CC of the RC10 Worlds car build, and this has been the transmission. So having recently assembled the RC10 Gold chassis, I can tell you that this transmission is so much smaller and much easier to build than the original. It is quite a revelation, really. And just for comparison's sake, we've got the original one here. You can see, if we just hold them up, the motor plates are pretty much identical, in size, obviously, and you can see how much thinner it is. You see that, and how much just more compact it is. Now it's obviously thinner because it's got only 3 gears inside instead of 6 like this one does. And you can see it's just a much more compact and therefore more efficient unit than the original one from 1983. This is from 1993, so gives you an idea. We showed you how to adjust the diff. Everything goes together pretty easily. If you've built ball diffs before, it's quite simple. I do have a complete step-by-step in the build blog on rcracingtv.net. Just click on reviews if you're, I believe in the description of this video you'll see a link directly back to the build blog. Everything goes together pretty well, really. It's a standard ball diff. There's large diff bearings, and then there's the smaller thrust bearing balls. The slipper is brand new. Certainly different than the original. I can't actually remember if the original had a slipper clutch, but this has a double padded slipper. I guess sort of a build tip on when you're putting this together is to put on the octagonal pads. Just hold them in place with your thumb and forefinger, and then put the aluminum slipper plates Hold those in place with your thumb and forefinger. Line up the vertical holes, and then slip it onto the top gear shaft or lay shaft, whatever you want to call it, and just line it up to the vertical cuts on the lay shaft, and then just slide it into place. That way, if you try and put the slipper plate on and then the pad and then the spur gear and then the pad, it's just the headache. So just easier to just put it on. So that's it, really. Pretty simple, easy to do. Yeah, so we're on to bag D and DD, where we're installing the actual installing the transmission into the car, and also the rear bulkhead and rear shock tower. And so that'll be bags D and DD coming up next.